I didn't raise my voice when she said it. I didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't even look offended. I just stood there in the narrow hallway of the bridal boutique, surrounded by mirrors and silk and other people's excitement, and let her words finish landing. "You're not blood. Don't speak on my wedding." She said it clearly, deliberately, loud enough that the sales associate stopped typing. The bridesmaids went still, and a stranger across the room pretended very badly not to listen. In that moment, something inside me didn't break. It locked into place, like a final bolt tightened on a door that had been swinging open for years. I'm Marcus. I'm 47 years old. For over a decade, I've been the man people rely on without remembering to acknowledge. The fixer, the closer, the one who makes impossible things work quietly so other people can keep believing in miracles. By profession, I manage large commercial construction projects: steel, concrete, budgets with commas, timelines that punish optimism. I build things that stand because every load is calculated and every assumption is tested. And somewhere along the way, I made the mistake of applying that same discipline to my family life, believing effort and consistency would eventually be recognized as love. I met my wife Lauren when her daughter Emma was 11. Emma had already learned how to brace herself against disappointment. Her biological father existed more as a concept than a presence. He lived several states away, showed up when it was convenient, vanished when it wasn't, and somehow still occupied the emotional high ground simply because no one expected anything from him. Lauren worked long hours managing a medical office, exhausted and determined to give her daughter everything she felt she'd missed growing up. That usually meant saying yes first and asking how later. I became the answer to later. I didn't step into their lives trying to replace anyone. I didn't demand a title or authority. I just showed up. When Jason forgot birthdays, I remembered. When he canceled visits, I adjusted schedules. I taught Emma how to drive after Jason promised he'd be there and didn't board the plane. I sat through parent-teacher conferences, college tours, financial aid meetings. I co-signed student loans without ceremony. I stayed up until 2 in the morning, helping her finish projects she'd ignored until panic set in. I was present in the unglamorous ways that don't translate well into stories people like to tell. She never called me dad. I never asked her to. I was Marcus. Reliable. Available. Optional. When Emma got engaged at 24, I was happy for her. Genuinely. But happiness didn't blind me. I saw two young people in love and a financial reality they hadn't met yet. She talked about wanting something small and intimate, while showing us venues that looked like they were designed to host royalty. Lauren smiled and said we'd figure it out. I knew what that meant. It always meant me. I tried to slow things down. I opened my laptop and did what I do best. I broke the wedding into components: venue, catering, rentals, photography, florals, attire, deposits, hidden fees no one talks about until invoices arrive. When we added it all up, even after cutting corners, they were $15,000 short. Emma stared at the number like it might apologize. Brent went quiet. Lauren looked at me with hope she didn't voice. I agreed to help. Partially, carefully. I made my boundaries clear. Deposits, not blank checks. No debt. No fantasy financing. I documented everything because that's how you protect yourself when money and emotions start sharing oxygen. I told myself this was what family did. You stepped in. You absorbed strain so younger people didn't snap under it. For a while, Emma included me. She asked my opinion, thanked me, sent me photos. Then her biological father found out about the wedding and suddenly remembered he had a daughter. He sent $500 and a text full of affection. $500. I'd already put down thousands. But Emma talked about his contribution like it was heroic. His financial limitations became tragic inevitabilities. Mine became invisible. The dress was where reality should have corrected itself. The boutique was elegant, performative. Champagne, flattering lighting, consultants trained to turn emotion into urgency. When Emma stepped out in the dress that made everyone cry, I saw the price tag before anyone asked the question out loud. I paid the deposit because refusing would have turned me into the villain in a room full of witnesses, and because some part of me still believed appreciation would catch up eventually. She hugged me and said she loved me. I let myself believe it. 2 weeks later, Jason sent money for the dress. She spent it on her bachelorette weekend. When I pointed out the remaining balance, she heard control instead of clarity. That misunderstanding grew quietly, fed by assumption and entitlement, until the final fitting brought it into the open. The consultant named the balance. Emma turned to me like the answer was obvious. When I reminded her of our agreement, she pulled me aside and whispered like I was embarrassing her. She didn't ask. She accused. And when I didn't bend, she said the things she'd probably been thinking for years. That I wasn't her real father, that I didn't get a say, that money didn't buy authority. She was right about one thing. Money doesn't buy authority. It buys responsibility. And I had been carrying far more of that than anyone respected. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I said one word, understood, then I walked out. That night I didn't spiral, I didn't rage. I did what I've always done when structures become unsafe. I assessed and dismantled. I pulled every receipt, every contract, every payment tied to that wedding. I built a spreadsheet not for them, but for me. $19,000. $19,000 toward an event where I'd been publicly reminded I wasn't family. I followed the rules. I downgraded venue packages to what had actually been paid for. I reduced catering to the minimum. I canceled upgrades no one else was willing to cover. I notified vendors my card was no longer authorized. I transferred my contributions out of the wedding account and into my own future. I didn't steal, I reclaimed. The fallout was immediate. Panic dressed as outrage. Accusations framed as disbelief. Emma called demanding answers. Lauren begged for compromise. Jason remained predictably absent. I stayed calm. Calm comes easily when you stop negotiating with people who don't respect your boundaries. I told Emma I was honoring her words. I told Lauren I was done being reduced to a resource. I didn't punish anyone. I simply stopped protecting them from consequences they insisted weren't my concern. The wedding didn't fall apart. It shrank to the size they could actually carry. Reality replaced fantasy. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Relief. Family isn't blood. It isn't titles or speeches or who walks who down an aisle. Family is accountability. It's gratitude. It's knowing that when someone shows up for you consistently, you don't get to erase them when it's convenient. Emma learned that lesson late. I learned mine just in time.